Hi everyone, welcome back to the second part of the video. Here we're about to place the split-second tuning numbers onto the main faceplate. As you can see here, it's a good idea to wet down the surface first, just like we did on the curved shutters. So you place your cut dial scale into the water, and the paper absorbs the warm water. And then once they start to separate, you want to lift them up out of the water, as you can see here. Then you'll place it onto your dial about where it should be, and you want your 60 on your split-second tuning scale to be in between the I2 pole and the tone switch indicator window area thing. And so here you can see that the numbers are being separated from the piece of paper, and you just got to get a little bit of grab on that piece of paper and you should be able to pull it right off. So it's a good idea to loosen up it all the way around before you slide the piece of paper off, as it could tear the sheet of numbers on the thin material. You just got to work with it. Just make sure you don't wrinkle it or anything like that. It's just got to be real gradual with it. It's kind of hard to do. You got to work on it just around the edge of the curved area, because if you pull it on one direction, it's going to pull in the other side. So you just got to keep working with it back and forth until you can slide it off. But you do have plenty of time, as long as you keep the area that you're applying the decal to wet, because it will just continue to slide around until it dries out. Alright, there we go. Sliding the paper off, and you can see the paper is leaving the number scale behind. And you just work with it ever so gently until you can separate it. And it doesn't matter where it ends up once you get the paper off, because you can of course slide it around and get it to where you want it to be. And there we go. Okay, so you can use your brush or your fingers to move it around. As you can see, there was a small fold on that edge. So what you can do is you can place your brush into if there's a small pool of water nearby, you can place it up into that water and slide your brush up underneath the film and slide it back out to see if you can flatten out the wrinkle. It's really not that big of a deal unless the numbers or the lines in the dial scale become folded, or because you'll see that. But if the film itself is, we can deal with that later with the micro saw. So you want to position it just right. You can find some reference photos online, or you can go by what the finished product looks like on mine. I have some close-up photos on the Antique Radio forum. You can see them there. I can post a link to that discussion posts, or you can just kind of look at the pictures that are here in the video. The important part about this split-second tuning, I guess ring, I guess you could call it, is that it has to barely curve in, where you can see where it curves into the inner circumference of the circle. It barely curves in on there, so it's not completely flat. So there will be areas of the dial that don't want to lay down completely, and I will show you later how to fix that. You just want to look at it real closely and take out all the wrinkles just by brushing it and pulling it pulling it side to side with your fingers. The wrinkles aren't too easy to see in the video, but when you're doing it yourself, you will see there will be numerous wrinkles here and there. And you just want to stretch it, keep stretching the dial, keep brushing it until you can get all those wrinkles to disappear. And so that's what my dad's doing right there. He's just stretching that area to get rid of the wrinkles that could be on that right upper side of the dial scale. And if you look closely, you can see that there's a layer of film that has not laid down on the upper area of the eye tube hole, and that's what we'll be dealing with later. Don't worry about that right now. Just make sure you got all your numbers where you want them to be. Notice that the 45 and 15 on the split-second tuning are right in line with the center hole where the dial pointers come through. And you can either cut the 45 and 15 with the upper part or the lower part. It's up to you. Just as long as whichever section has your 45 and 15 on it, you want to make sure that that's probably the one you want to do first. And see, you want to make sure that they're lined up with the center hole. Right about the same. And it's a good idea to keep the upper half of the split-second tuning scale wet before you put the other one on, because they might not line up exactly right. You want to move, once you get your second one placed, you want to be able to move both of them around so you can get the exact right placement for both of them. You don't want to let the top one dry before you put your second one on, or else the edges might be too far in and it might not be an exact circle. It's a good idea just to keep it wet. You can wet your brush and kind of slide your brush up underneath the decal, and that'll keep it moistened underneath. Okay, so here is demonstrating those areas that won't lay down. So I'm pushing it with the brush, and you can see they just won't lay down. There happen to be 3 of them this time. They will occur in that upper area just because the curvature of it isn't consistent all the way around. You've got those 2 bars coming down that go to the center round circle on the faceplate. Okay, so here's one thing you want to do. Take a razor blade and just slice it right down the middle. And that will cut it into two edges that you can lay both of those down. But they still won't lay down all the way. That's where the microsaw comes in. So you just want to slice them. Be sure not to scratch your paint when you do that. It doesn't take much to cut those things. You want to be very gentle. So fold them down as best you can with either your fingers or your brush. A little bit of water. Then we'll apply the microsaw in a minute to melt away that film. Okay, so here we go. Here's your microsaw. You dip your brush in the microsaw and you apply it to the decal where you want to melt it to the curvature. Now, something very important with microsaw: do not apply it while the decal is still very wet, because the microsaw solution will distribute itself through it's kind of hard to explain, through the water that's already, through the residual water that's underneath the decal, and it will shrink it will basically make the wrinkles more noticeable if it's too wet. It's kind of a gray area. It's something you might want to test out on your own. These kits do come with test decals that just say the word test on them, and you can test to see how it behaves. You still want it to be slightly wet, that way you can move it later on when you put your second dial sheet below, but they can't be wet enough to where that microsaw will distribute itself throughout the remaining water that's still there, because it will wrinkle it terribly. But if it does wrinkle it a lot, it's not a big deal. You can just apply more microsaw to it and it will melt away those wrinkles. but it will still leave behind just a little bit of ripple. But it really is not noticeable behind the dial glass because you'll have a bit of a glare in the dial glass and it'll be hard to see these small imperfections. But just don't apply it immediately after you put your decal on. You want it to sit just a little while, just enough for most of the water to evaporate. So what I'm doing there is I'm just taking those areas that we saw didn't lay down quite all the way earlier, and the microsol is just melting that plasticky material away. It won't hurt the printing, the number printing, but it will melt away the plastic film. So just apply it here and there, and it should be a melt away the areas that wouldn't flatten down. So you can see where the I2 pole is. There used to be a stretched film across the upper area of it, and that's all completely gone now. In the next video, we will continue with the outer dial faceplate, and we'll place the diamonds on the corner edges, and we'll also put the Zenith and the patent script on there as well. And I will show you a few other little tips that are good to know when reassembling this. So thank you for watching. Bye-bye.